We have an update to a story that we told you about yesterday. A young woman in Bridgeport, Connecticut, who died last month under very suspicious circumstances. Lauren Smith Fields was found in her apartment by the man she had had a date with the night before. Her family accuses police of mishandling this investigation. Newly released autopsy results conclude that her death was, quote, an accident. Elise Preston is here with more on the story. You're back again from yesterday, Elise. It's very troubling. The more we hear, the worse it seems to get.
It's very concerning. Good morning, Gail. Preliminary results from the state paint the first real picture of how Smith Fields died. The medical examiner found Smith Fields died of acute intoxication from a combination of drugs and alcohol. The results showed fentanyl in her system, along with 2 other drugs. The autopsy says the combination of those substances with alcohol led to what it calls an accidental death. In a video statement last night, the family attorney said they believe there was foul play.
Someone introduced those drugs to her system, and it wasn't her. And we want answers right now.
Now, the attorney did not explain how the family knows she did not take the drugs herself. The man hasn't been charged and is not considered a suspect, so we are not naming him. According to the police incident report, Smith Fields' date told police that 2 spent the night drinking, eating, and watching a movie. At one point, he said she went outside to meet someone and later fell ill, but the 2 continued drinking. Smith Fields allegedly fell asleep, and hours later, around 6:30 in the morning, the date says he woke up next to Smith Fields, not breathing, and called 911. The full autopsy results will not be made public, but the family can request it. Smith Fields' family is also still waiting on its own private autopsy results, which are expected within the month.
This is so troubling, Elise, because, listen, the autopsy doesn't show how the drugs got into her system. So we still don't know that, and we are just to believe what the man says. The man who, by the way, has not been identified publicly.
Right.
He could say anything.
He could say anything. We have not identified him. We have tried to reach out and make contact. We have not been able to do so. But the family has been questioning from the very beginning, has she been drugged? They say they found an unidentified pill in the home. They said they sent that, or they had police take it for processing. We call the state lab. They don't have anything in their possession related to Smith Fields' death.
And we're not identifying him because he's not been charged?
He has not been charged. He is not a person of interest, according to police.
Well, I think just how the family responded to how the police didn't really listen to their calls for concern is also disturbing. Elise, thank you.
Okay, so y'all just heard that audio clip, that news clip right there that's coming from CBS Mornings YouTube page. And this is an update, again, another update to Lauren Smith Fields. Of course, the last time we talked about it, we finally got the identity of the person who was there with her. And I don't know why they said in this clip right here that they do not know who the guy is when his face is all over the internet by now. We know him by name and by face. His name is Matthew LaFontaine. But I know why they're not saying his name like that, because they said he hasn't been charged with anything. And with this latest update right here, I have a feeling they probably won't, because when I listen to this, it again goes back to Ed Buck for me, because this is right out of the Ed Buck playbook. It plays out the exact same way. The only difference is that she is a black female, and when it came to Ed Buck, those were 2 black men. And it plays out the same exact way. And guess what ended up happening? When that third person came to Ed Buck and they made it out alive, Ed Buck ended up going to trial. And they basically found him guilty of the crimes of those 2 men being dead. I don't even know if they actually charged him with murder, but they just charged him in connections with their death. And that was enough for them to actually give him a sentencing. So, yeah, it's looking even more sketchy, because now people are going to be like, oh, like, you know, she took the drugs, she's dead, he's alive. But guess what? With Ed Buck, they took the drugs and he was still alive. They're dead and he's still alive, but he's still also in jail too. Because it was always that reasonable doubt, or that benefit of the doubt. And, you know, Ed Buck had those connections. He was a huge Democratic donor. I don't know what kind of connections Matthew LaFontaine has. But now it's going to be looking even more iffy. And now this is actually going to back the family into an either smaller corner, I should say, when it comes to trying to get more answers when it comes to the death of their daughter. because now we have fentanyl that comes into play. And y'all know I've talked about fentanyl on my channel several times in the past. And if they could actually push this as far as they can, and you know they will, that Matthew LaFontaine, not only would he actually just walk away from this, but if he wanted to sue for quote unquote defamation of character, he definitely could. Now, that's why a lot of major media outlets did not completely go after him like that to avoid that happening. But a lot of, I guess you can say, low level media markets, or anyone that wrote an article about him and put his face out there saying that he did this, and they could say that, oh, he didn't, then if he wanted to, he possibly could. If that happens, I'm not entirely sure. Will it happen? I'm not sure. Now, the family said that they're going to have, they're doing a private autopsy with this. But like I said, I'm still kind of side-eyeing this whole thing, especially with the details that we already know. But I think the biggest question now is, how did the fentanyl get in her system? Like, we know that when it comes to stuff like that, that's something that's, in, as far as we know, injected. So it's not like it's cocaine where it's snorted. It's not like it's a pill where it's taken through the mouth or anything like that. It's something that is injected. So, or it's not like it's carfentanil where that thing you can come in contact with it and it gives you an instant high just by being in contact with it. But what gets me is the fact that if she had all of this in her system and they just had like a quote unquote good night, that wasn't such a good night after all, and she's laid there dead in the bed and he's the only one alive. Yeah, it's a lot of stuff that's really not clicking for me. This is exactly why a lot of people need to install cameras in their homes, because you never know what people's motives might actually be. And if you can catch them doing some stuff on camera, but still, for me, what I'm trying to figure out is what happened in that time that she went down to go see her brother and he was still in her apartment, because he was still there. She wasn't. And now people are going to try to probably question the brother, like, what did she come down to get from him? Because it was never specified what she went to go and get. It just said, oh, she was going to go meet her brother, and then she went back up to the apartment. And according to Matthew LaFontaine, she got sick. She was, I guess he said she was throwing up or whatever it was in that previous article that I had read on the last story I did about her. So it's a lot of moving parts still going on with this. But like I said, we've seen this before. We've seen this before with Ed Buck. And he got away with it twice and almost did it a third time. So I would not put it past him. And remember, if we can take it a step further and go even further back, Jeffrey Dahmer. I mean, do we even have to rehash his entire history and the stuff he got away with? And his was worse than Ed Buck. But that's pretty much all I have for this right now. I'm curious to know what y'all have to say down in the comments. Make sure that you go and leave a comment, like, share, and subscribe if you are new. Hit that notification bell, and I will talk to you in the next one.